Good morning, YouTube. My good friend shot me over video, and then she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Did I trigger you?" I'm like, nah, not really. I mean, a little, but nothing like where I'm not like flipping out. But it's like about adoption, and it was a grown man in his 40s talking about. It was like the title was like scathing for adoption. It's like the fraud and the identity theft and blah blah of adoption, and I'm like, I know it's so intense for the adoptee, and the interesting thing is, like, we don't even realize it until we're adults, pretty much, because, I mean, if we're adopted as babies, because it's all we've ever known. This is our reality. We feel what we feel, and it's never talked about because, really, to cut the normies who know at least one birth family member, um, why should they why should they, like most of the world, have to constantly be like worried about stepping on our adopted toes? They shouldn't. But it would be nice if the lies were broadly revealed about babies are not blank slates. There's issues with cutting someone off. It's like cult-like behavior. You are cut off from your family of origin, and you are not allowed to know, and you are not allowed to really, I mean, some families, I'm sure, are allowed to talk about it freely, but others, it's like, you just don't bring it up. You're ungrateful. Your mother would have killed you. Do you want to be dead? Like, they just start throwing all this, and you're like, yeah, well, yeah, yeah, yeah. And for my case, I bonded to my adopted parents and brother. They did not bond to me. And I felt that, but I couldn't verbalize it. I mean, they'd have been like, "How dare you? Of course we love you." I didn't say that they didn't care about me to a degree. It was obviously they cared about me enough to feed me, house me, buy me decent clothes. And I don't know. Maybe it was because of the emotional supply they got. I don't know. Because but were both of them narcissists? I'm not sure what I was looking at. My dad was kind of like Aspergery. A little bit. He was real mathematical, and he had a very dry sense of humor and missed some social cues, like, often enough to be like, ugh, dad's embarrassing. But he was never embarrassed. But Don Berger, oh, the bald eagle. But anyway, God bless his heart, has passed away. Um, I think he was just clueless. I think he was traumatized so severely growing up that he was living in his own state of disassociation. He was also in the Korean War, which he never, ever talked about, ever, except to mention like a couple of times because it fit that, he was asked, "You were in the Korean War." Yep. That's it. Don't talk about. So God only knows, and him, what happened to this poor man. My adopted mother was abandoned at the age of 2 by her mother in North Carolina, who came up to the Baltimore area until she was 13. And her grandmother sent her up and said, "You need to be with your mother. You're getting to that age," and blah, blah, blah. Where then she was promptly violated heinously by her older brother, who was 21. Anyway, so here I have these severely traumatized adoptive parents. And my mother had endometriosis, and she likely conceived many times, but couldn't carry. But the pregnancy tests, she said at the time, were not sensitive enough to pick this up until later on in the pregnancy. So that rips her estrogen all up and down, up, blah, 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 until I'm sure that definitely impacted her PTSD. This is the apologetics for my adopted parents video. If you hadn't picked up on that yet. I feel very much a lot of empathy for them. The only problem with it is they didn't want my empathy. So I had to cut them off. Because that's not what's happening. I'm stupid. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, okay. Feel terrible for these people. Many adoptive parents just sold the bill of goods. Your baby's a blank slate. You just love it. You just dress it up and it's yours. This guy went on to explain, he's in his 40s, he went on to explain exactly my experience. Just psychologically what goes on in our heads, even the best of adoptions, which there were parts of mine that were not terrible at all. I lived in a stable home, had good food, and stable grandparents that I saw all the time, one set. I had pets, dogs and cats. It was great. I went to, the same elementary school, the same. There were consistencies that without likely would have led to my demise, suicide or something like that. So, but I thought it was interesting that the guy in his video mentioned that adoptees are 4 times more likely to commit suicide, no matter how good or bad the adoption was. I was like, whoa. It's incredible, isn't it? Well, that's just because you guys just latched on to this so that you could have an excuse to be pathetic and weak and not work and claim depression and PTSD. You just needed an excuse. Yeah, because everyone's dying to commit suicide, right? We just need a reason. I was adopted. That's it. I'll use that one. Yeah, that's probably not it. But anyway, yeah, I don't know, y'all, but thank God for Lenny and you all, because just talking to whoever, total strangers, if you never say anything to me, you're my confessional. YouTube is my therapist and my confessional. And I hope it doesn't come back to bite me.